Hey, welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about Hollywood activism, because there is something truly ridiculous about it. It always seems to stop just short of costing anyone anything. The more money, privilege, and connections you have, the louder you tend to preach about the struggle. And few celebrities embody that contradiction more perfectly than Emma Watson. For years, she has positioned herself as the polished, educated, enlightened activist, who just happens to live in luxury and attend fashion shows in Paris. But here's the problem: when your activism is built on performance instead of principle, eventually, people notice. The great pivot and the backlash. This past week, Emma Watson managed to upset both sides of a very fierce cultural debate. After years of publicly distancing herself from JK Rowling, the woman who created her career, Emma went on Jay Shetty's podcast to suddenly talk about forgiveness, balance, and not canceling people. She's now facing backlash from the same trans advocates and activists who once cheered her on. Why? Because, as I see it, when the cultural tide turned, Emma tried to pivot. This wasn't just a simple feud, it's a perfect example of what happens when activism becomes branding. If you build your career on echoing whatever is fashionable, you don't stand for justice, you stand for the trend. And when that trend changes, you end up exactly where Emma is now, looking confused, defensive, and completely out of touch. The shield of extreme privilege. To understand why Emma Watson's activism often rings hollow, you have to look at where it began, in a bubble of extreme privilege. She grew up the daughter of two successful lawyers in England, cast as Hermione Granger at age 9, earning millions before high school, and praised as the cleverest witch of her generation. Even her time at Brown University was a luxury move, one of the world's most expensive private universities. When she talks about privilege and oppression, it is always from a vantage point where she can talk about injustice without ever feeling it. Emma doesn't live the consequences. She is a multimillionaire, surrounded by PR teams and stylists. She doesn't rely on public healthcare, risk losing her job over a tweet, or face unsafe neighborhoods. For her, activism is not survival, it's branding. The contradiction lies right there. Speaking about inequality is less about changing the world and more about maintaining relevance within elite circles that thrive on appearing socially conscious. The posts look inspiring, the speeches sound powerful, but as the sources note, nothing in her life ever changes. Activism as content. Remember the He for She campaign? It was her big feminist moment, the UN speech that went viral. Everyone applauded, but what happened when the cameras turned off? The campaign faded, the conversation died, and Emma moved on. She seems to move on from gender equality, to climate change, to diversity, to sustainability, whatever cause happens to trend that year. In my opinion, this is activism as content. The issue is secondary, what matters is the image of being on the right side of it. Her words often feel well-rehearsed. They are the vocabulary of elite empathy, compassion without consequence. True activists talk about action, policy, and measurable results, but Emma is fluent only in the language of awareness, empowerment, and solidarity, rarely touching on the deeper issues, funding, or consequences of policies. She is on the surface, but doesn't have the knowledge to go deeper. As one source puts it, Emma's views seem to be a fart in the wind, she goes with whatever direction is popular in that moment. The Rowling betrayal. The ultimate test of her principles came last week with JK Rowling. Rowling created her entire career, but when the culture turned against her in 2020 over her comments, Emma turned too. She publicly distanced herself from Rowling. Then came the infamous BAFTAs moment, where Emma took the stage and quipped, "I'm here for all the witches," making Rowling the villain of her own legacy while the audience applauded. This was considered by Rowling to be a turning point. According to Rowling, while she was facing death, rape, and torture threats, Emma sent a private handwritten note saying, "I'm so sorry for what you're going through," but publicly offered nothing but silence and mockery. That, to me, is opportunism, not bravery. Now, she's suddenly preaching nuance, forgiveness, and how disagreement doesn't erase love. This nuance was nowhere to be found when it was unpopular to say it. As a result, the very activists who once hailed her are now accusing her of betrayal and centering herself. JK Rowling responded to this pivot, writing that Emma has so little experience of real life she doesn't understand the stakes for women who can't afford to be wrong. In other words, Emma plays activism from a penthouse. The tragedy of meaninglessness. Emma Watson isn't fighting for change, she is fighting for applause. Her career was built on purity and righteousness, but her convictions are viewed as convenient. This consistent flip-flopping means she seems to stand for nothing. As the source material says, the irony is almost cinematic. The actress who starred in Harry Potter and played the character who stood by the truth, couldn't do the same in real life. When the world demanded courage, she offered photo ops. For years, Emma sat comfortably at the top of the moral pyramid, untouchable. But now, the applause has stopped due to public fatigue. People are tired of being lectured by celebrities who live in private jets and penthouses while preaching humility. The downfall isn't scandal, it's sameness. She became the predictable, flawless, marketable activist. But if your morality is a mirror of the current trend, you can't stand still when the crowd moves. True activism costs something, losing fans, friends, or opportunities. But Emma has never had to pay that price, she's only ever collected the applause. That is the tragedy of her story, when you stand for everything, you stand for nothing. So, where does that leave her? Exposed by the very culture she tried to master. Activism without risk isn't activism, it is marketing. I want to know what you think. Do you agree that Emma's beliefs are like a fart in the wind, just going with whatever direction is popular that day? Or do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.